Something big is happening in the Middle East, and it's way more than just Gaza. Let me take a step back for a second to give you some background. Egyptian President Sisi recently made a colossal diplomatic mistake. He canceled his meeting with President Trump at the White House. Sisi was supposed to meet with Trump to discuss Gaza, regional stability, and how to prevent another October 7th style massacre. But instead, he pulled out like the week before the meeting. Now, let me tell you something about President Donald J. Trump. You do not cancel a meeting with Trump and expect to walk away unscathed. Trump will remember that. Trump is not Biden. He's not going to send a strongly worded letter and move on. Trump sees disrespect and he responds with power, not passivity. Might not have happened yet, but he remembers these things. And remember, this is the same Trump who stood in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in 2017 and told the Arab Muslim world, drive out the terrorists, drive them out because they desecrate God's name. And he meant it. So Sisi just picked a fight with the wrong American president. And now the clock is ticking on Egypt's next big mistake. So what's the other thing Sisi did? Well, Egypt put out their own Gaza plan. What was Sisi planning to tell Trump in that meeting? He was going to pitch Egypt's brilliant new plan for Gaza. And let me tell you, it's as absurd as it gets. His plan has all Gazans staying in Gaza, even though Hamas built an underground terror city and collapsed the very foundations of every building across Gaza, so it's not safe to rebuild. That the Arab world is the one that invests to rebuild Gaza again, as if the billions poured in over the last decades weren't spent on rockets and tunnels to then go to war against Israel, be destroyed and rebuild, and to pretend that Hamas disappears magically while their ideology remains deeply embedded in every school, mosque, and home in Gaza. This isn't a peace plan for Gaza. This is a terror plan in disguise. And you don't think Trump knows it? Rebuilding Gaza as it was before October 7th would be like rebuilding Nazi bunkers after World War II, which is insane. President Trump sees this for what it is, an Arab stall tactic to avoid taking responsibility for their own jihadi cousins. Well, Hamas was actually supported by Egypt directly. And Trump has already said Gaza is a death trap. It needs to be emptied, not rebuilt. Now, while everyone's talking about Trump's plan for Gaza that the whole Islamo-Nazi Arab world is not too happy with, a much bigger story is actually taking place, getting little media attention. While the media focuses on how Egypt is trying to stop Trump's Gaza immigration plan together with the whole Arab world, what if I told you there's a much bigger game at play? One that directly threatens Israel's security, not just from Gaza or from Iran, but from Egypt. Because while Egypt is making noise about Gaza, it has also been quietly violating the Camp David Accords peace treaty with Israel for years, expanding its military presence in the Sinai desert far beyond what was agreed upon in the treaty. And now, for the first time in years, Israel might have to confront Egypt head on. Israel's newly appointed ambassador to the United States, Yechiel Leiter, just made a bombshell statement. First time ever an Israeli diplomat spoke like this, revealing that Israel will very soon address Egypt's massive military buildup in the Sinai desert. Never before has this been mentioned as official Israeli policy diplomatically. So let's be clear. This Egyptian military buildup is a direct violation of the Camp David Accords. Basically, the peace treaty is dead. The entire foundation of Israeli-Egyptian peace is based on strict military limitations in the Sinai desert. The whole point was to prevent Egypt from ever being able to position its military right at Israel's doorstep in the Sinai desert. And the Sinai desert is a huge buffer zone that gives Israel time to prepare for any land invasion from Egypt. But with the Egyptian military established in the Sinai desert as they are today, this is an extremely dangerous situation for Israel. So what's happening now? Egypt has flooded the Sinai with troops, tanks, and anti-aircraft systems. Egypt claims it's fighting ISIS. But let's be real. First of all, ISIS doesn't have an air force. And second of all, supposedly, they already destroyed ISIS in the Sinai desert a while ago. So why the necessary military buildup to defeat ISIS? You already did it. Now take your troops out. That's what they asked permission from Israel in order to put the troops in there initially, but it's over. What we actually see is that Egypt is playing a double game, accepting billions of dollars in United States aid while quietly shifting its military doctrine towards Israel. Egypt has no other enemy bordering the Sinai Desert, just the Jewish state of Israel. I get it. There might be some people who will still prefer to say, oh no, this can't be. It's really just the Egyptian military training in the Sinai Desert because it's such a nice big area to train in. Well, if that is so, then why is the Egyptian media today and Arab influencers right now promoting a video of a speech that President Sisi of Egypt gave 6 years ago saying that the Egyptian army will crush the Israeli army? Translated into English, he said these words in his speech: the Egyptian army has done it once before, and it is capable of doing it every time. Their time, meaning Israel, is coming very soon as well. End quote from President Sisi's speech 6 years ago. This is something we must take very seriously. Egypt is not an ally. Egypt is an enemy. And now that Israel is calling them out, it puts Egypt in an even worse position with President Trump. Egypt now has 3 bad options, and every single one hopefully will end up in a disaster for Egypt. Number 1, try to block Trump's Gaza plan, anger President Trump completely, and risk losing United States foreign aid, potentially collapsing Sisi's regime. Number 2, launch a war against Israel, get completely destroyed by the Israeli IDF, and still lose United States foreign aid. Or number 3, complain about Trump's plan, but ultimately let it happen, keeping U.S. aid, but looking weak in the process, not going to war against Israel, and potentially losing the ability to attack Israel from the Sinai as an Islamo-Nazi-free Gaza Strip is in Trump's American interests. So he will not allow Egypt to attack Israel from the Sinai Desert. No matter what Sisi chooses, Egypt loses and Israel wins. This isn't just about Gaza. This is about regional power. Trump is forcing Egypt to take a side, and Egypt doesn't like being put in this position. Israel also is done ignoring Egypt's violations, and we can make a case out of it now with Trump in office. And now the world is going to see just how much Egypt has broken its agreements. If Egypt backs down, Israel and Trump win big. And if Egypt escalates, they expose themselves as an enemy of Israel and America, they also lose. Either way, the reality is clear. There's a much bigger game at play than just Gaza. And Israel is finally getting the support we deserve from the most pro-Israel United States administration ever in American history. Now I want to add a perspective where this might get really interesting, with Israel really winning big due to Egypt misplaying its hand with President Trump and with Israel. If Egypt crosses the line and shows intent to launch a war against Israel, then Israel will have no choice but to go to war to Egypt and to retake the Sinai Desert, as Sinai provides the strategic depth for Israel, as I explained, acting as a buffer against future attacks from Egypt. Controlling Sinai also cuts off any terror supply lines from Egypt into Gaza, ensuring it never again becomes a terror base. So wouldn't it be ironic if after all these decades of Egypt using Hamas as a proxy to fight Israel and destroy Israel, and after all these years of its building up its military in the Sinai Desert to destroy Israel, that Egyptian arrogance leads Israel to liberating the Sinai Desert once again, to make the Sinai Jewish again and part of Israel? And if that happens, remember this: Trump didn't cause it to happen, and Bibi Netanyahu wouldn't be the one causing it to happen. God above is running the show. Who would have thought on October 8th, 2023, after experiencing the worst massacre since the Holocaust, that the Jewish people and the Jewish state in Israel would be in this situation today, that Gaza would be on the verge of total collapse, that Israel would have the world's strongest power finally backing its total victory, that Arab leaders like Jordan's King Abdullah would start opening their doors to Gazan immigration and to making Gaza Islamo-Nazi free. And now here we are. Egypt is misplaying its hand. Trump is stepping up. Israel is regaining its strength. And maybe we will liberate the Sinai desert, not just Gaza. These pieces are all moving exactly as they need to. Because as I've said from the beginning, God above is running the show. Not Trump, not Netanyahu. God above. And we are living through miraculous redemptive times. Ups and downs. There's still going to be downs, but it's redemptive times. So stay strong, stay hopeful, and don't let the daily headlines get you down. Which leads me exactly to my final comment. I want to spend 1 minute on clearing up the situation of the negotiations to continue the ceasefire with our Islamo-Nazi enemies in Gaza to hopefully free more captives from Gaza. And when Israel will finally release hell on Gaza to have the total victory in Gaza, we must have to end this war and protect Israel. So put aside the daily headlines that get you all discouraged and frustrated about the situation. Whether one agrees or disagrees, I want to explain to you the logic of Prime Minister Netanyahu in doing what he's doing right now with these negotiations. Everything, and I mean everything right now, is about getting freed as many of our hostages out of Gaza as possible before we unleash hell on our Islamo-Nazi enemies in Gaza. That's the priority. Free as many of our hostages as possible before hell falls on them. That's the only reason Israel hasn't yet implemented Trump's ultimatum to level Gaza if Hamas refuses to release all of our hostages. And we all know that Hamas will never release all of the hostages because those innocent men, women, and children are the only leverage Hamas has left by holding on to them to pressure us. But the second Hamas stops releasing our hostages and they hold on to some, the gloves will come off and we will then release hell on Gaza and come up with the total victory. So whatever aid or caravans or bulldozers that Israel is allowing into Gaza right now as part of the negotiations to free as many of our hostages as possible, no matter how infuriating and immoral it is, it would all be completely irrelevant once we wipe Hamas and our Islamo-Nazi enemies off the map and finally liberate Gaza and make Gaza Jewish again. Israel's defense ministry has already established a new body to assist Gaza Islamo-Nazis to voluntarily emigrate out of Gaza. All right? Who's talking about it? It will happen. And the moment we fully implement Trump's Gaza immigration plan, hundreds of thousands of Gaza Islamo-Nazis will flee voluntarily, knowing that hell is coming and they want to get out of there. The only ones left in Gaza will be the armed Islamo-Nazis, the terrorists who are too brainwashed or too committed to their genocidal mission to kill Jews and destroy Israel to cause them to leave. And those are exactly the ones who we will then defeat in battle in Gaza. Because once Israel finally unleashes hell on Gaza, there will be no more negotiations, no more games, no more caravans, no more bulldozers, and no more Islamo-Nazi terrorists left in the Gaza Strip. So do not lose focus of the big picture. And there is a very big picture going on. Gaza is just one piece getting the most attention. We have nuclear Iran to take care of. We have Egypt to take care of. We have Hezbollah and Lebanon to still take care of. We have the Turkish, Syrian, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Sunni terrorists in Syria to take care of. And we have the Islamo-Nazi terrorists in Judea and Samaria who threaten all of us Jews in Judea and Samaria and Jews all across Israel to take care of. There are lots of moving parts going on right now. So don't let your mind be distracted. Strengthen your faith in the one above and help me at the Pulse of Israel share all these truths. Am Yisrael Chai. If you are not yet a subscriber to our Pulse of Israel videos, what are you waiting for? Go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe for the daily, belief-based, inspiring, politically incorrect truth about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world. And yes, we are a donor-based operation. We are heavily shadow banned. We are heavily censored and shadow banned across social media platforms. It's thanks to your donations, big and small, that we're able to do our work and get our videos seen. We want them to be seen by more people, inspire more people with the truth. So every once in a while, click on the donate button on pulseofisrael.com. Shalom everyone, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.